What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the sex talk class. How's it going?
Hi.
Oh, Elia, how are you? Good to
I'm
see
good,
you.
thank you. How are you? Sorry, we are running a little behind here. Let me just fix this.
This is perfect timing.
So Andrew's running a little late, but he'll be here soon.
Perfect. This is perfect timing. So I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna start sharing this on the Facebook page, so we can share later. You can share later to wherever you want.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yay. Cool. Let's see. Yeah. This is so amazing how like a laptop, a microphone, and internet can do all of this.
I know, right?
Yeah. Pretty cool.
I'm basically just using my phone.
I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, just the phone. You don't even need a laptop or just.
Yeah,
So,
I don't have a laptop anymore. I don't. It seems like I'm so used to the touch screen. It's like I can't do the laptop, so I have an iPad and a phone. That's it.
perfect. Yeah. I actually have a friend that did the same. He ditched the laptop, no more laptops. And my teacher also, he started like he used to take notes on the laptop, and now he only used the iPad for his clients, for his coaching.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let me do a quick introduction here for everyone watching.
Sure.
What's up, everybody? My name is Fernando Lopez, and I'm here today to talk about Tantra and talk about sex and talk about energy, and have Elia here with me, who is going to be helping us understand those three things better. She is a practitioner of Tantra, and her partner will be joining in very soon, Andrei. So it's super exciting. Welcome anyone here in the Zoom room. If you have any questions, feel free to interact with us. This is going to be an interactive interview / class. And Elia, shall we begin? You know, we met a couple of weeks ago at the expo. How was that expo for you, where you had your booth with Andrei and you had those beautiful banners about Tantra? How was the whole experience for you there?
Oh, it was great. I don't normally do that, but Andrei, he is way more into it, doing the expos and stuff. So I'm starting to get into it, and I love it. I really loved it. For me, it was like an expo for spiritual junkies.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
It's total spiritual junkies, and I love it. I love, you get to connect with people like you. You get to connect with people that need healing, or people that want to connect you with other people that need healing. So in the end, it really is all about connection, and that's what we're here for, right? We're here to connect. And that's what Tantra is about. Tantra is about energy, this exchange of energy. How do we exchange energy, and how do we learn to elevate our energy in order to give the best of ourselves, right? Give the best. Give the best. And also not just to give it, but also to receive the best because we're worthy. We're worthy also receiving this higher level of energy too. So if anything, I have learned to be more picky rather than just, frolicking around. And I've been there, done that. I'm not going to say no, but I have definitely learned to be way more picky in terms of who do I share my energy with. Yes. So, of course, the expo was about that, and I love that we were able to connect, and I love being able to connect with people that are in that same mindset, and that they're curious or they're hungry for more spiritual knowledge.
Wonderful. You touched on so many subjects there that I would love to ask you more questions.
Absolutely.
And and thanks for bringing up that beautiful word of frolicking. I haven't heard that word in a while, so it's such a fun word.
It is, right?
Yes.
I know. So some people say, "Where did you grow up?" I'm like, "Well, I grew up in Mexico, but I've been all over the world, so I'm always picking up certain words from like, like, oh my goodness gracious, or like things like that. I always like, what is the other one that I used to say a lot? Oh my days. In UK, they say oh my days a lot. So anyways, I'm always picking little phrases here and there that are cute.
Yeah. And the one in the UK, oh my days, is that like, oh my God?
Yeah, it's like saying oh my God, but it's oh my days.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, we could go so many places, but I'm taking some notes here so to keep some structure, because we could go all over, and all over is good. And we're gonna, I think, begin at the beginning.
Sure.
You mentioned the word healing. It was one of the first words you mentioned today in regards to Tantra.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you get into it? Was it because of healing?
Oh
And
yes.
so what's the story? What's your backstory?
Sure. Long story. I'll sum it up. But I was in a very abusive relationship. I'm a survivor of domestic abuse. And when I was going through my healing process, I decided, and I accepted that I knew I needed help. So I started going to therapy myself. I took myself to a therapist. I have quite a few friends that are therapists, so I kind of asked around, and I started doing therapy myself. That was probably about 12 years ago. And then after that, I continue going. I tried different modalities, different techniques. I did cognitive behavioral therapy. I try NLP. I try Reiki. So I went, holistic, non-holistic, psychologist too. So I try a little bit of everything. And that's the whole reason why I became a therapist. I'm also a licensed RTT therapist too. So the whole reason I became a therapist is because I knew therapy had helped me heal. So I wanted to give back. And since I understand pain, it's really like I had a client on Friday morning. She was sitting here in this couch, actually. If this couch could talk, it's like, woo. But right. But I had her, we were sitting. I have a chair right in front, and that's where I sit, and usually my clients sit in here. But she was sitting here, and I'm just looking at her, and I was like, I was you 12 years ago. She
Wow.
came here suffering from depression, anxiety, and insomnia. And it was almost like she didn't even have to like tell me. She's like, well, I'm suffering from depression. I'm like, okay, how are you sleeping? Are you sleeping at night? And she was like, no, not really. I'm like, okay. Because oftentimes depression and anxiety go hand in hand. And if you have anxiety, it's really hard to not to have insomnia. So most patients with anxiety, they also suffer from insomnia too. And it was just took me a couple of questions asking her. And also it wasn't just for me to know, I already knew. It was just for her to just kind of open up a little bit more. And so that's when I said, like I was you 12 years ago. I understand your pain, and I understand when you're in that state of pain, you want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So that's why I became a therapist. But in the process of becoming a therapist, I started becoming more curious about Tantra. And then, of course, I started joining Tantra Awakening with Andrei. Andrei is the founder of Tantra Awakening. And so we started teaching each other. We started teaching together. And that's how we met. Eventually, we met in person because we wanted to collaborate together. I invited him to San Diego and we met in person. And the first time we did a meditation, an eye gazing meditation, we just kind of knew that that was the energy that we were kind of playing with each other already. So it was just like, again, it's all about energy. So we already, like I say, doing that meditation really allow us to, or at least for me, it allowed me to open up and really understand that energy. And it was such a familiar energy that it was like, okay, I know you. I know you from somewhere already. But I'm gonna stop right now because Andrew's here. So I'm gonna invite him to sit over here next to me.
Yay.
And yay.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. Hello.
Welcome.
How are you, brother?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I see you heard the story of how we met. How we
Yes.
came together.
Mm-hmm.
So inspiring. Eye gazing.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind what we teach, we went out of our way to keep it really, really professional.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
extra professional. But
Yeah.
like you said, there's no denying energy. There's no denying fate. You know,
Yeah.
I teach people to trust their intuition and their gut and go with what they feel. And we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, we can't teach this and ignore it ourselves. Like
Yeah.
we're both definitely feeling something. So
It took us one day, right? We
Yeah.
we stayed professional for one day at least.
we're still professional.
Well, we're still very professional, yes, but
That's
yeah.
wonderful. This could be like a class on how to take your professionalism to the next level when you trust your intuition and it's time for you to, take the next step with someone that you feel you're meant to be with.
Right. Embrace that,
Embrace it. And it is so interesting. I'm taking a lot of notes here, Andrei, when I was listening to Elia and taking notes with you here too. You just got here. It's going to be, I can tell, a very juicy conversation and very educational as well. I'm going to, just to get it out of my awareness, I'm going to type this and just say it out loud. Sexual tension in the workplace. Sexual tension in the workplace. So that's something that I'm just going to type it here. We can talk about it later because I feel like I've been hearing from clients quite a bit about them having crushes, having this sexual tension with coworkers, bosses, employees, not knowing how to deal with it. So just going to open that loop. We're going to move around.
Interestingly enough, I actually teach a course called Tantra in the Boardroom. And no, it's not about seducing your boss. It's about heart-centered leadership and making the important decisions, not from the mind, but from the heart. So this topic actually comes up quite a bit. And I mean, in some way, like we kind of dealt with it as well. Communication is key. Communication is key. Definitely things left unsaid is what leads to hurt feelings, leads to resentment, leads to unfulfilled expectations. So it's always better to be honest than like subtle and hope that somebody catches the clues or doesn't catch the cues. It's really a case-by-case situation because, they say don't mix business and pleasure, right? Yeah. They say keep them separate. But the flip side, like in my experience, I can't imagine. Now, of course, what we have is perfect and amazing, but like, I can't imagine being in a relationship with somebody that has totally opposite goals. Not that they have to be an identical clone of you, but at least you have to be on a somewhat parallel path, because a relationship where you're both totally pursuing completely opposite things and like half of each day is spent apart, like to me almost seems pointless. Like business is better when you mix pleasure. Pleasure is better when you mix business, but it's got to be done in the right way, is my view on it. And I guess if you come from the heart rather than the head, you tend to make more of the right decisions. When you tend to come from the head and overthink things, that's where things get convoluted and confused and misinterpreted signals and things like that. Different topic, but somewhat related. Like people often ask me how to have difficult conversations, because that's some place where people tend to run it in their head and rehearse it and kind of amp up for it and prepare for it. And yet it never goes the way you imagine, ever. So what's the point of all that rehearsing other than to give you jittery, uneasy feelings? So when approaching a difficult conversation, and this is where it ties back into your question, I always tell people take a few breaths, 3 to 5 breaths in and out through the heart instead of the nose. Don't think about anything, just focus on this spot. Focus on the breaths. Bring your attention, your awareness, and thereby your energy back into your heart. And I guarantee it, whatever comes out of your mouth is going to be the right thing. Now, whether it's a difficult conversation in your relationship or an awkward conversation at work that maybe centers, outside of the professional, centers around feelings. If you come from the heart rather than the head, you don't have to worry about being inappropriate or saying the wrong thing. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, because you're no longer coming from a place of ego. You're coming from a heart-centered place of how can I say and do the right thing for everybody concerned? And then whatever the outcome, it may or may not be what you wanted, but it will be the best thing for everybody, and it'll be done in the best, gentlest, most understanding, compassionate way.
Yeah.
And for someone who, is listening to this, listening to your words and go, oh my goodness, okay, I have so many conversations, difficult conversations to be had. And they've never done that. They've never taken a few breaths through the heart. Like, what if someone who, does not meditate yet, or who hasn't done yoga or Kundalini or Tantra, someone is super new to this, let's quote unquote world, how would you say, give them instructions to do that?
Well, that's why I keep it simple. 3 to 5 breaths, and imagine you're breathing in and out through the heart. There's no complicated technique. Yeah.
Right? Just like, usually that's what I teach people. Just like put your hand, especially kids, just put your hand on your tummy. If you're breathing through your tummy, put your hand on your heart. If you're breathing through your heart,
yeah, that's excellent, because it draws your attention there. You feel the touch,
right?
And it instantly puts your attention there. The thing about energy, it always goes where your attention is. It's that simple. So yeah, simple touch will draw your attention there. And like for me, I kind of picture it back and forth, but it's personal. It's however you feel it. But just imagine this is where the air is moving in and out of. And it's very interesting. The ancient tantric texts tell you that this chakra is important because it bridges the lower 3, the earthly chakras, with the upper 3, the cosmic or heavenly chakras. Nowadays, we have the Heart Math Institute, modern science, and they're telling you when you focus your attention on the heart, it creates a state called heart-brain coherence, where they're not at odds with each other, but they're sharing signals. Because we're now learning the heart has neurons, not just nerves, but actual neurons, cells capable of thought and memory. And the heart radiates 100 times stronger electrical signal and 500 times stronger magnetic signal than the brain. So it's literally a part of your thinking and being process. So whether you go with the ancient texts or modern discoveries in science, everybody tells you like, this is the key. Start here. And I don't have to tell you what comes after and what to do next. Like you said, like people might be inexperienced with meditation. Keep it simple. The what comes next will come next for you. Just get this part. Just do this part. Touch and breathe through where you feel the pressure in the touch.
Awesome. Wonderful. As you were talking, the voice of a client from last week came to mind, and she said, we had just done a forgiveness exercise. And part of the forgiveness exercise, put your hand on your heart. I actually tell them index finger, middle finger, use those 2 fingers, locate your heart beating, connect to it. And when she came out of the meditation, she said, if I speak from my heart, or if I do what my heart says, what if I make a mistake? What if I regret it later? And, I said what I said to her. I'd love to hear your opinion. Like, for someone that might have, because if she had that question, chances are other people have that question too. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Absolutely. Well, that's just it. The what if is your brain. That's your head. That's the ego. That's the what if. Do this anyway, because the what ifs, when do they also come up? They come up before the meditation. Do this anyway, no matter if you have 1 or 100 what ifs. Do this for a couple minutes, and I guarantee you the what ifs will resolve themselves. You don't have to know what happens after the meditation till after the meditation. That's the point of it.
Wonderful. I'm hearing you, and I'm go, yeah, yep. And as if she's such a good a person who is out to create change in the world for people that are, say, overweight. You know, she's a coach with nutrition, and it's almost like I could channel her saying like, it's almost like, and I'll speak this for people that might relate to this. I'm scared of speaking my heart's language, or I'm scared of being full out and having faith, encouraged to say what my heart wants to say.
Well, that's just it. The key in all those phrases, the I'm. The I'm is afraid. The I'm is the ego.
Yeah.
You're afraid of speaking from the heart, but that's the ego. The heart knows what to say, and that's just it. Those breaths will draw you out of here and back down into here. And the heart knows what to say and knows what to do.
Yeah.
And the whole reason why it creates such a conflict in their mind is because the mind is doing one thing, the heart, the self, the subconscious mind already knows exactly what you need. And so there's such a conflict in there because that's another roof from the brain, right? The mind. It's a roof from the mind. It's like the mind cannot hold a conflicted thought, like a conflicted belief. So if you have a belief, you know, it's hard to change beliefs because it's such a familiar thing to do. And so it's hard to move your mind away from something that is familiar. But at the same time, it's already creating a conflict because it goes against yourself. It goes against the higher self.
I want to do the right thing. I want to say the right thing, but I always mess it up. I always do the wrong thing. Each of those statements has an I in it. You see? Now, we've been talking about location, head versus heart. There's also time. Something I've been realizing, when you have these conflicting thoughts, when the fears, when the doubts come up, pay attention to when you are. We've talked about where you are. Pay attention to when you are, because almost always it'll be the past. You're regretting or feeling pain from something that happened in the past, or it's fear and worry about some imagined but not real scenario from the future. It's always the past or the future. Think about it. Part of this also, because you feel the touch, right? Tantra is one part energy and one part touch. This brings you to the present. It not only brings you to your heart location-wise, but time-wise, it brings you into the present. It's just you, your fingers, and your heart, and your breath. So yeah, if you think about it, anytime you felt a negative emotion, when were they located?
When?
Yeah, it's like, so depression is worrying about what happened in the past, and anxiety is worrying about what hasn't happened in the future, but you already worry about something that hasn't happened. So that's, you know, that's depression and anxiety right there, just worrying about the past or the future.
What if I say the wrong thing? It's past experience and fears projected onto the future, but very little of it is in the present. Oh, I'm breathing through my heart and it feels so good.
Yeah.
Start there and you're not going to mess up. I promise.
Yeah.
I promise.
The gift of the present, or the present.
That's why we call it a present, right?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Just like the Mark Twain's quote, something about most of my life, I've had many problems, most of which have never happened, which is basically talking about worry and anxiety. And then things don't happen. And some people are really good they actually cause those things to happen. So it's good, like what you're saying, to ask the question, when? Like, when is that feeling? Is it now, or is it in the future, or is it past? And by breathing through your heart, you will be in the now. That's wonderful. And I asked Elia earlier her backstory, like why Tantra? How'd she get into it? And it was a lovely story. How about you, Andrei? What's your backstory? How'd you get into it?
Well, the interesting thing is, I've been studying Tantra most of my life in one way, shape, or form. Nobody just ever told me that's what it was or that's what it was called. My first experience was probably the first time I've ever had an orgasm. And that was with myself, I'll admit. Suddenly I found myself floating in space, looking back down at the earth. Like literally, I had an out-of-body experience. Floated up there for a minute or two and then fell right back into my body. And I was just, whoa, what just happened? And more importantly, how do I make it happen again? So that's kind of what I guess kicked it off, but I still didn't know what it was. I started out very young studying martial arts.
Wait, hang on, I must ask, let me interrupt you. How old were you when that happened?
13 or 14, maybe.
13 or 14.
Somewhere
Okay.
around there.
Okay, just to give perspective. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first time you floated into space, you look back on Earth.
I guess you could call it a spiritual experience. Yeah, I didn't know. I was just, let me repeat it. Well, I know I was laying in bed. I know this particular song was playing. Like I knew some of the ingredients and I was trying to recreate it, but I had not connected it at all to sexual energy. I was trying to think of which song was it. No, it's not. Maybe it's the particular part of the song. Well, maybe my feet were in this direction. My parents are both scientists, so I'm going about it scientifically, trying to recreate the experience.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Really, that's the thing. You don't find it through logic. You find it through feeling.
Yeah, totally. So you're looking for a way to replicate, reproduce the same. That's wonderful. And then you're talking about a story of martial arts. What's that story?
Well, this is now a couple of years later, like towards the end of high school, beginning of college. I started out studying martial arts. Martial arts led me to meditation. At one point, my teacher took me to Japan with him. And we not only practiced martial arts, but we went to the temple where he prayed. And it's a Buddhist tradition. I was initiated there and I started studying some of their meditation techniques as well. And it was only very recently, like whenever I put something in my bio, or I like to Google it because I know other people will. So I want to know what kind of backstory people are
good.
Finding about me.
Good advice.
So this particular sect of Buddhism was called Tandai Nikyo Buddhism. So I Googled it and I was surprised. Wikipedia has an entry on it. I thought, it's pretty out there. It's like not near a major city. It's in the wilderness. And I didn't think it was even known here in the West, but lo and behold, Wikipedia has an entry on Tandai Nikyo Buddhism. And the first thing it says is an esoteric, tantric branch of Buddhism. I'm like, they didn't tell me back then I was studying Tantra. I was studying meditation. I was studying breath work. But Wikipedia defines it as an esoteric tantric form of Buddhism. And that's just one example. Throughout my life, like now that I'm going back and like writing about this stuff and talking about this stuff and therefore researching it because I want to have my facts straight, I'm like, oh, well, this is a branch of Tantra. This is a branch of Tantra. This is a branch of Tantra. And it's like my whole life, and this is what I'm tying it back to the heart. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was one of those people that when I tell my life story on an interview like this, it's going to make no sense whatsoever, because at the time I thought I was all over the place.
Yeah.
But now that I'm going back and doing the research and organizing some of this stuff because I'm writing about it, it's like, oh, it was always one path. I just didn't back then see the common thread, how it all connected together. And now I do. And that common thread was Tantra, which is the study of energy. Yes, one was studying breath, one was studying meditation, but all of those are ways to bring your awareness to energy, really.
That's wonderful. what a surprise. What a surprise to have to go all the way to a different country, different continent, and find out that you're, you're studying something that is going to affect your life forever. And I'm thinking here, we've been using the word Tantra a lot. For maybe people that hear that word here in the US or in the Western world, may have some connotations to Tantra.
Mhm.
You've, you know,
Yeah.
you have mentioned a few times, it's the study of energy. And earlier today, preparing for this interview, I was watching the new Netflix series called Goop.
Mhm.
Oh, sex.
Love,
yeah,
sex, and
love,
goop.
sex and goop.
Yeah, Love, Sex, and Goop. And I just watched the first one, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. So I think it's good that that new TV series is there, because it's going to help a lot of people heal and also find Tantra. So for people that have their, I guess, their definition of Tantra, what would you say? And it's probably only has to do with sex. And here we haven't even been talking about sex aside from your first experience where you're floating, and looking at the earth. What would you say, tell people that Tantra is on a daily basis? So from the moment you wake up, eating, speaking with your partner, studying, going to work, like how does Tantra influence you throughout your day?
Well, you kind of said it. That's just it. And the example we gave in the beginning about talking through difficult situations, I would call that tantric speaking from the heart. Tantric eating is a
Yeah.
workshop that I teach, actually. Yeah. Really learning to appreciate your food and take your time with it using all 5 senses, not just smell and taste. Tantra is really a way of life. Like, you can do anything, really anything tantrically. The reason it's often associated with sex, well, here in the West, I mean, sex sells.
Right.
So most of the Tantra teachers, they lead with the sex because they know that's going to get people's attention. In the East, the way it started was, a lot of religions are like, okay, praying is good, meditating, as long as it's not too esoteric, it's okay. Sex, that's bad. A lot of traditions kind of categorize things into good and bad. Tantra takes a step backwards and says categorization itself is bad. We're not going to label anything as good or bad. We're just going to stay away from categorization and look at all of it. So it's not necessarily that Tantra is pro-sex. It's just not anti-anything. It looks at the whole. Now, that said, sexuality is a very effective teaching tool, because some people are energy sensitive and some people are coming from a standpoint of, well, I don't know if energy is real or not. I'd like to believe in it. It sounds good, but I just don't know. And to that person, I would say, have you ever been sexually aroused? They're like, well, yeah, of course. I'm like, that's energy. That's what energy feels like when it starts accumulating in your body. We call it sexual when it's located in one area of your body, which is the second chakra, the sacral chakra. And if you're wondering, like, is Tantra dirty? Is Tantra sinful? Think about it for a moment. Sacral chakra, it comes from the word sacred. Yeah. And sacred means something used for a religious or holy purpose. It's just that over time, it's become perverted. The word to pervert, the verb, means to take something which is holy and make it unholy. So it's not the body part. It's not the act. It's that over the centuries, here again, mind and not heart, we've convoluted it. Okay. The difference between sexuality and Tantra is sexuality, you collect and collect and collect the energy in the second chakra till it explodes. In Tantra, you use that energy and you start circulating it throughout your body, up and down your spine, and using it to activate and open the other chakras as well. In other words, it's not localized. It's a starting point, and it's not the whole of the experience. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
But very often it is people's kind of entry into the bigger world of Tantra.
And I would say, if anything, speaking from personal, for myself, if anything, I feel like the more I have learned about Tantra, and the more I have started practicing Tantra, I started practicing more of sacred sex rather than just going around and, you know, fucking everybody around. It became more of, like I was telling you, became more of me being more picky and more protective of my energy, because I understand this, there is this huge exchange of energy when you are, you know, when you're having the act of sex and stuff. And it is not just the physical part, you know, and I often say, like, yeah, sex is kind of basic if you're not doing it with intention
and with energy.
Energy. If you're not putting the intention in it, you know, it's really kind of basic to me. Rather than, you know, actually doing it with somebody who is also has that same intention, or at least a similar intention, and is vibrating at the same level, then you can have that beautiful flow of energy with his body and your body. And it's not just body to body, physical, is more spiritual, soul to soul experience. And that's what they talk about, you know, the whole, oh my God, the orgasmic out of the world experience, because it is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's
what you experience when you have the first, you know, your first orgasmic experience. It was an out of body experience. So yes, you can have much better sex, but it's not just the sex, it's the actual.
Why stop there?
Exchange of energy, where you can also put intention into that energy and create, because at the end of the day, that's where creation starts.
Right. Let's not forget the second chakra. The sexual act itself is an act of creation, but a baby isn't the only thing human beings are capable of creating, especially together. When you put your intention, you know, behind the energy that you generate, you can create anything you want. It's not limited to only life, though creating life is a pretty big deal. I mean, that, you know, that puts us on par with the gods, but you don't have to stop there. There's so much more to it than that. As far as as you became more tantrically aware, you became more discriminating.
Well, no, I wouldn't say discriminating, more conscious.
More conscious.
Yes. Yeah.
The word sex itself, let's redefine it. Sacred energy exchange. When you think of it that way, you know, and not just, oh, I want to release, or, oh, I'm just feeling lonely. When you really understand what's happening, sacred energy exchange, I think it redefines the entire experience.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Right.
I love it.
And just, it kind of sets your mindset and your mind to, like, am I giving my partner the best of me at this moment? Or am I just going to exchange, you know, kind of like crappy energy right now, because I'm feeling kind of crappy right now. So maybe I need to work on myself a little bit, you know, elevate my energy a little bit, and then, all right, I'm ready for it, you know, because I want to give my best too, because, hey, he's giving me the best too. So why, you know, make it even? And it's not about making it even, but it's about, like, oh, if we are at higher level of energy, we can create even more at that moment.
Well, let's redefine
rather than just using it for release.
Right.
You know, I mean, yeah, release it's good, but it's like, wouldn't it be better if you use it for manifesting, creation?
Well, I guess that, I mean, nothing wrong with release.
Yeah,
we all lead stressful lives.
Release, yeah.
I would say release can be an intention as well, but it's important to have an intention rather than going into it intentionless. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
I remember reading a book, and I believe it was called Sex Magic. And that from that day on, each time I had sex or release, it came. So sometimes I remember to have the intention before the sex, and sometimes I forgot. But during the orgasm, I would come up, create, or invoke the intention of the day into,
Mhm.
which, and something in that book, so that's been like years, and something in that book said something like, don't waste another orgasm
Yes.
without an intention.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Impregnate your universe
Yes.
Yes,
with that intention.
Mhm.
absolutely. Because the moment of orgasm, you're radiating energy out. It's like radio. Radio has a carrier wave, and then it has a signal wave on top of it. So same thing, when you're radiating energy out into the universe, that's the carrier wave. Now add a signal to it. Now, a tip too, like sometimes you remember, sometimes you don't. It's very tricky to think during orgasm, and certainly during sex. In Tantra, we encourage people to get out of their head. Don't be thinking, come to your senses, be in your body, be in your partner's body, really feel each other. Don't be up here, don't be thinking. So it might sound like a little bit of a contradiction. How do you put in an intention if you're not supposed to be thinking? What I would say to that, do your thinking ahead of time. Okay. This is why we journal. This is why we visualize. Law of attraction, right? It teaches visualization. It teaches journaling. But the purpose of all of these exercises is to generate a feeling. So do all of those exercises outside of sex and outside of your sexual practice, whether it's with yourself or with a partner. Do those exercises, become familiar with the feeling. Feeling is frequency. During orgasm, all you have to do is recall the feeling. You don't have to do the thinking. Your body already knows what the feeling is associated with. So that's how you get past that apparent contradiction.
Okay, that's awesome.
You're not thinking during sex or during orgasm, you're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, you're surrendering yourself to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have so many bullet points to cover, and we only have 15 more minutes. It's like, it's such a good conversation. And there was right after I did my first workshop, I attended my first Tantra workshop. I started having practice partners. And I remember one that we would meet to practice in something that we wanted to manifest in our lives, that she wanted and that I wanted. And it was something similar. And I remember one time that we met to practice, and some of you might think like, you call it practice? What do you do during a Tantra practice? Well, we were practicing whatever we thought was practice, whatever we learned in a workshop, and what we're learning from that book as well. And I remember that day we chose the word focus as an intention for the practice. So everything we did was, we're going to feel, see, hear, experience, create, co-create, focus, whatever that means to each of us.
Right.
And then we started, the eye gazing, the breath work, the touching. So for those of you listening to this and hearing, it pays off to go to a workshop. It may be the beginning of the rest of your life, that it's magical, it's peaceful, a lot of fun, and you get to meet amazing people as well. So let's see here. I want to ask you more questions. Let's see. You told me about a little bit about your past, sex sells, stay away from categorization, which is awesome. Sacred sex, being more
Stay away
picky.
from expectations in general.
Yeah.
I would say. Categorization is beforehand, expectations is afterwards. Here again, past, future, like the tantric practice itself is about really being laser focused in the present and feeling it, experiencing it fully from many different angles with many different senses. Yeah. Wonderful. Expectation in general, like Tantra is the opposite of expectation. It's the opposite of having a script.
I love it. Oh, so good. let's see. We got to talk about this, even though even though we have not talked about this before. And so so there's a few things here on my list: the Yoni massage or sacred spot massage, oming or orgasmic meditation, and wheel of consent. Which one do you want to go with?
Well, we can do oming and yoni massage kind of in one,
Okay.
even though they are distinctly different things, which is why I kind of want to cover the two together. And wow, Tantra is also about feeling and intuition. I was thinking in the back of my head, like, so far we've been talking about Tantra from a practitioner standpoint. I want to learn more about my body and about my partner's body and energy, but we haven't really delved into the whole healing aspects of Tantra, because we're both coming from a therapy background. And Tantra, wow, I don't know how it is for you, but like, I'm able to do things with my clients in 1 to 3 sessions that used to take 6 to 12 months.
Oh yeah, please let's go into that, because that's super interesting. You're telling me a little bit about that one client, business person that came to see you, and I think 1 session and then 2 subsequent sessions for integration, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I do follow-up sessions, usually it's for integration, just to see how the changes took place and that. But yeah, it's profoundly powerful as a form of therapy. Now, this isn't to say that the only form of tantric therapy is yoni massage. Like, there's lots of different forms of tantric therapy, but this is probably the one that most people are most aware of and most curious about. The two misnomers with yoni massage are the words yoni and the word massage. Okay. First of all, yoni, for those that don't know, yoni is the Sanskrit word for vagina. Now, first of all, men can be treated therapeutically with Tantra as well, not only women. And second of all, the yoni is not the only part of the body that's involved in the therapy. It's just the one that probably triggers people the most. So it's the most talked about. But I mean, rubbing your hairs, just moving your hairs without touching the skin is a form of tantric therapy. Yeah, try to move the hairs, but not touch the skin.
Like, you don't even need to touch the skin.
Whether somebody's become
you can feel the energy, right?
Feel it.
Yeah.
So somebody who's become desensitized, whether it's abuse or trauma or just leading a harsh life, and they want to get back in touch with their senses, we often start here. This is tantric therapy. It doesn't have to be the yoni. It doesn't have to be the lingam or the penis. Mm-hmm. Any body part can be used for it. It's wherever the trauma happens to be stored. Okay. Now, the yoni, very often, if it's specifically rape, if it's sexual trauma, yes, it'll be in or around the yoni, of course. But literally any part of the body can be used for touch therapy or somatic therapy, as it's called in the West. The second misnomer is the massage part. Okay, this isn't touching lightly or slowly or softly. This isn't slowing things down. Yes, Tantra in general, when you're practicing with your partner, teaches you to slow things down, because as a culture, we tend to rush things. Yes, tantric therapy isn't so much slowing it down. And this is where we get into oming a little bit, orgasmic meditation. That is a separate practice, okay? A very beneficial one, but that's not really yoni massage, nor is it de-armoring, as it sometimes is called. That is slowing it down, okay? And that is where your partner would touch you and slowly guide you towards orgasm, freeing you to just trap it. Mm-hmm. That's oming, but that is not yoni massage. It's not slowing it down. Very often, there's very little movement involved at all. The only movement would be in finding the tender spot or spots where the trauma happens to be stored. We call that mapping. Mm-hmm. Once you found the spot, just like we did here with the heart, it's very simply holding your finger there to draw the person's awareness to that spot. And very often, it's not even a finger. We use a crystal wand a lot, so we don't have to touch our clients. Okay. But it's applying a light pressure to bring the person's awareness to it. The actual practice, just like we did with our hearts, is breathing in and out through that spot once you found it.
Wow.
So when somebody says Yoni massage, I'm kind of like, what have you read about it and who did the writing? Because yeah, there's only two things with that. The word yoni and the word massage, because that's not actually the practice. Very often what people are describing is omen.
Yeah. I agree with you. If you're gonna, for those of you listening, watching, go take a workshop before you do this.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I remember taking I think it was a 20-hour workshop that I attended 2 days before the teacher sent us with a partner. So the man made a circle facing the circle, and they closed their eyes, and the women would walk around the circle, feeling the man's energies through their backs to choose a partner to have the ritual or the sacred yoni massage. And I remember I was so nervous because who's gonna pick me? And that night I changed completely, because what happened, I was basically channeling the teacher's voice, and there was a part in the ritual where I was putting flowers around her, petals, rose petals around her, and basically allowing her to receive for the first time ever without being allowed to give back. Like, this is your night to receive only. And it lasted about 3 hours. And when I started touching her with my hands, probably going to be another 30 minutes, an hour, yoni massage. And all of a sudden the voice of the teacher came to my mind. And it's possible that when you're about to do the yoni massage, or when you start, you just need to stop and embrace your partner. And I've heard that voice as if he was right there next to me, and I stopped, I embraced her, and what happened after was just tears. Just tears. And I just embraced her for, I don't know, if it was like a half hour, 45 minutes, just tears, healing, release. So for those of you interested in this, please go see Elia and Andrei. Please share your contact information, because I know we're getting close. We have another 5 minutes, but for those of you, let's go ahead and share contacts before we continue, so people can get in touch with you.
You can go to tantricawakening.net, .net, not .com, and eliabean.com. ELIA. We have all of our links and things listed there. It's just one central place to land. But to what you said, as you were saying it, I remember my own teacher's voice echoing, and she said, make sure you spend at least 20 minutes here. Here again, Tantra doesn't begin with the genitals. Tantra begins with the eyes. It begins with the heart. And
something similar happened to us at the beginning, remember? Where I was crying, and I have not been able to do that with a partner. So it was really the first time for me to be able to completely release crying with a partner, where I felt safe. I felt safe, and I felt that someone was holding space for me in a very safe, protective way. That's how I feel. I feel safe enough to be able to cry and release.
And that's just it. It's not what body part you touch. It's the role of the divine masculine is to create a safe, supportive container, more than anything. And for the ladies, it's a very different experience. And not just the yoni, the breasts, any part of the body, the neck, the arm, having it be touched for the sake of touch and not as like a prelude leading to something else is a totally different experience. Whatever that body part is, even the breasts, even the yoni, not on the way to somewhere else or something else, but just that being an experience in and of itself, I think is key. But I mean, let's hear from a yoni owner.
No, absolutely. It was for me. It was like you were holding space for me.
Mhm.
And I have never felt like safe enough to release like that before. And it was like, I mean, I was crying for what, for like 20, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. And he was just holding me. He really was just holding me, like literally too. He was just holding me too. And I was just, you know, like had my head on his shoulder, and I was just crying and just releasing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this is important. Yeah, tip for the brothers listening. We as men, we tend to want, even outside of a sexual context, we tend to want to find solutions to problems. We want to fix things. We want to understand why. This is the masculine, the logical mind. Okay, very important. Your role isn't always to fix or to have a solution. It's to hold space.
Yes.
Just to hold space and
Right.
allow another being to be is probably the greatest, the strongest gift you can give.
Yeah. And that really is for anything in relationships, for anything. You know, it's like we women, we don't expect you to fix our problems. We just want you to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And give us a hug. That's really it, really. And that's what happened in that moment. Is like, I didn't need him to talk. I didn't need him to say it's gonna be okay. I didn't need him to say anything, really. He really didn't say anything. It was just for me to have a space to release, to cry, and just to let go in that moment. And I have someone there holding me in a safe way where I could just be. It was just me being me in that moment, and just being able to release. And that's it. That's all I needed. I just needed really that space to feel safe to release. I didn't need you to say, what's going on? Why are you crying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh my God, like, are you crying? Like, why? Like, let me fix it. No, it wasn't like that. It's just, I just needed him to just hold space for me so that I could just freely and safely release in that moment.
I guess that's the message I would love to leave your audience with, is just that divine masculine, divine feminine. It's not a doing, it's a being. It's a state of being. It really comes down to presence and awareness.
Yeah. And it was such a beautiful moment for me, because I had
me also.
Right. And I had not been able to do that with anybody. I mean, I'm a fucking therapist. You think I haven't, you know what I mean? Like, you think I haven't figured it out. But it's like, you know, we all go through trials and tribulations, and it doesn't matter. We all hold things from our past or worries, you know, we all have that. We all have to deal with that. So,
well, same thing, years and years of therapy training, but in the end, it came down to shut up and listen. Yes,
really. Yes.
That reminds me, my father, I think he said a joke once, or I think he got a shirt that says, the key to happiness is just saying to your wife, yes, honey. Like, whatever she says, ask, yes, honey, or I think it's something to do with that. But yeah, shut up and listen. And like you mentioned to the brothers out there, and I feel like this is good for women too, but being a man and all, I think Tantra it's so much more important for men, because I believe that if more men take Tantra workshops and get educated and get to practice, they'll be able to do what you did with Elia, or do what I did with my partner at the time, which is to grant them the beingness for them to be seen, acknowledged, held, protected, while vulnerable, so they can be the feminine. So to the brothers listening, go to Elia's and Andrei's website and connect with them, because this is very important. My life has been completely improved because of Tantra. And after I met both of you last week, I have been realizing even more the subtle things I do on a daily basis because of Tantra. So I highly recommend everyone. I'm going to be more vocal about it from now on. So maybe we can do a part 2 of this interview. So much that we didn't talk about, and maybe even create some type of offering to the people watching and listening, so they can right away plug in and make it super easy for them to plug in, whether it's in person, group setting, or online. Because what I found by also attending Tantra workshops was the community. And not only was the community, it was practice partners. And it was not only practice partners, it was also partners that became partners. Like what happened with both of you.
Right.
Well, happy to say, I mean, we just finished filming a course called Tantra for One, The Art of Self-Love. And we'll be doing a follow-up, certainly with partner work as well. But that's part of what's going up on tantricawakening.net. Is it's going to be like a repository of courses on various topics, and it'll be other teachers besides just ourselves. But this is why the .net and not a .com is, because it's also going to be a social network, like our very own Facebook or Instagram, without the censorship, but for people that are on this going through this process of becoming energy aware, awakening, tantra, meditation, healing, like all of it. Like that's what we kind of realized, is we kind of need a combination, like social network / dating site. Like right now it's just a list of links to all of our socials, but that is exactly what we're actively creating. And I don't want to speak for you, but I would love to do a part 2.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think we're just getting started.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the whole reason why we did Tantra for One is because we were both single.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, you know, we can give the opinion of for the ladies and for the guys, and then let's do Tantra for One since we're single. Of course, we didn't really. Now we can do Tantra for 2.
Right. To what you said, you were saying like it's even more important for men. I would say men have a little bit more to learn, because sexuality, sensuality, energy, tantra, these things come much more intuitively for women than they do for men. So men certainly need to learn and practice some of the basics. However, the importance of learning, I would say both, but especially the women, because women and women's sexuality have been such repressed topics for such a long time, that women need to kind of step back into their power and without the shame.
Oh gosh, yes. And I see that a lot with my clients, you know, when they were sexually abused when they were babies, when I regress them and then they go back to a scene when they were a baby and they're being touched inappropriately. And that stays in the body. That stays in the body. Gets stored in the body.
And that's why I would say, the men need to learn, the women need to heal.
Yes.
You know, but it's very, very important for both. This is a new age we're entering. It's an age where it's not going to be men are like this, women are like this. This is masculine, this is feminine. We're really entering an age where
embracing the feminine and the divine masculine too.
In each of us, in both of us.
Yes.
We each have both energies.
Yeah, we have both.
Wow, I'm loving this.
And that'll be the cliffhanger for part 2.
Yeah, men need to learn, women need to heal. Thank you so much, Andrei and Elia, for coming and sharing your gifts, your wisdom, your time with me and my audience. Love to have part 2. Men need to learn, women need to heal. This is the beginning of the beginning. Looking forward to next time. And for everyone listening, watching, if this is the right time, please get in touch with them. I'm sure there'll be amazing things for you to find out about yourself, about your future. And, you know, everything happens for a reason. So there's a reason why someone sent this to you, or why you're watching and listening to this right now.
There are no coincidences.
Exactly. There are no coincidences. Thank you so much, Andrei again, and Elia. I hope to see you again soon and speak soon. For everyone else, have an amazing evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Fernando Lopez, sending you much love from California. I'll speak with you soon. Have a great night. And I'll play a little bit of a song here. It's moving as we say goodbye. And Carolina, thank you so much for being here.
Gracias por invitarme. Me encantó. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah. We'll be talking soon, Carolina. We'll be talking soon. I'm sure Carolina and Elia and Andrei will be talking as well, because we are on the same path. So love to introduce you guys when we have more time.
That's good.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.